So Bradford, what we're going to do is start off with an exercise called impromptu networking.
Okay.
What that is just going to do is just have us move into a series of different one-on-one conversations to sort of get warmed up and meet a few folks.
All right.
So I'm going to hustle you off to breakout room 1, and I will have somebody join you in that breakout shortly. And our invitation to start, let's see, what's a good one? Let's see.
I might just drop for a few and I'll get back in, okay? If you don't mind.
Okay, that's fine enough.
Okay. So Gabriella, that was on the call, she said she had when she joined Zoom, a machine shut down, so she's just rebooting. She's going again. So
Okay.
I just got to drop for a bit. I've got a call coming in on Teams. I'll join in a bit, right?
Sure
Thank
enough,
you.
then. Talk to you then. Good morning, afternoon. Hello.
Good afternoon. Hey.
How you doing, Mark? Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to the party. Sri
Sure.
Kumar, welcome as well. We're going to jump right into impromptu networking, which is just going to be a series of different one-on-ones. So that'll help us breeze right past this awkward start as we wait for everybody to show up on time.
Great. Yes.
Let's see. I'm looking through this list for an invitation. How about, that one's a little real. The worst thing, no, the best thing, no. A paradoxical reality I must face up to is, a paradoxical reality I must face up to is this one should work out well. So I'm going to hustle you guys into a breakout room, and that'll give you 10 minutes to make friends.
Okay, thanks.
Go. Hello, Stephanie.
Hey, good morning.
Welcome to the party.
Thank you.
So we're already started in impromptu networking.
Okay.
We're going to get hustled off into a breakout with somebody else. Okay. Our invitation for today is a paradoxical reality I must face up to is a paradoxical reality I must face up to is, I know, it's a good one. Paradoxical. I like to start off every day with as many 5-syllable words as possible.
Yeah, and on a Monday morning. Wow.
Yeah, right. We get it in. I mean, it's 4 o'clock where I'm at, so
I was going to say, for me, it's in the morning, but maybe others, it's evening.
Yeah. So, anything pop for you as you consider this invitation?
No, nothing popped yet, but I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. I was about to give you mine, but it looks like John is here to join us.
Perfect.
So we'll offer invitation, and you guys can make friends.
All right.
Welcome to the party, John.
Hello.
We're already
3 people.
yeah, no, it's all right. We're already started with impromptu networking, and I'm going to invite you and Stephanie into a breakout room to get to know each other.
Sure.
Our invitation is a paradoxical reality I must face is, again, a paradoxical reality I must face up to is, and you should see the invitation for room 2 shortly. Did I press the right button? I hope so.
Awesome. Huh?
Christian.
Hello. Sorry I'm late. It's technical problems.
No worries.
Yeah.
Everybody else in the call is already getting started with impromptu networking.
Okay.
So we are, our invitation for this round is a doozy. A paradoxical reality I must face up to is.
Yeah. Okay.
So a paradoxical reality I must face up to. The one I always sort of run into has to do with like paying attention both to myself and to other people. So I obviously want to be like really self-aware and reflective about what's going on in my internal experience, but not sort of like navel-gazy.
Yeah.
So it looks like Frederick is jumping into the call as well. So I'm going to hustle both of you guys off into breakout room 3 to explore. Let's see. Frederick. There we go. Frederick, we're already started with impromptu networking. Our invitation is a paradoxical reality I must face up to is. So a paradoxical reality I must face up to is.
Okay, we are jumping right in. Thank you. Yeah.
Smojo.
Hey, Jay.
How you doing?
Better for seeing you guys.
Cool.
We already just us at the moment.
No, everybody else is in breakout rooms. We're doing this. I'm mastering this art of what I like to call the flying start into impromptu networking. So,
so tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, as people show up, I just pair them off, and put them in breakout rooms instantly. Like, hey, this is your invitation. Like, so talk amongst yourselves rather than do this whole weird, like, oh, there's 2 more minutes, while we wait for everybody to show up.
Oh, right. Flying start. I like the sound of that. That's interesting.
Yeah. And then we just repeat. So impromptu networking is just this series of one-on-one conversations. So, right. So we just repeat the invitation in a different pairing a couple more times. And, that's our first 15 minutes. And we were already, we've already got our first structure out of the way, so to speak. So.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Anybody, so nobody's come up with something in particular yet? They sort of.
No. So maybe I don't understand what you mean. What do you mean?
Oh yeah, like when people have had like facilitating issues and things like that. So I was trying to think of today, because I haven't been around been able to jump in and I won't be able to
Oh.
jump in next week and stuff like that. So I was sort of not sure whether we're working on someone's issue.
Oh no, not quite
or-
yet. No. We're just landing. So the invitation we're using to spark things off is if it's not in front of me, I forget. A paradoxical reality I must face up to is.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, way to twist the brain cells.
I know, right? It is like one of my favorite. Wicked Questions is probably my favorite individual structure.
Yeah,
so
I do like the wicked questions one. Actually, I think I brought that up last time we were in session. Those wicked questions. That was a few weeks ago, though.
Yeah.
What was that question again that you asked?
It's now in the chat. So a paradoxical reality I must face up to is.
Here's a paradox, me having to write it down to really sort of, it was the word, the word throws me. Oh my gosh.
Paradoxical, I mean, that's a lot of syllables, right?
Yeah. Especially when your mind is thinking in a different language at the time.
Yeah, right. You know, heaven help the non-native English speakers in the call.
Oh, I tell you what, that's kind of cool because I've been trying to finish this presentation today, which isn't quite there. But it's also going to be introducing, because we're talking about flow. I'm presenting this next week. And I'm going to use neurographic art as part of that to join the conscious subconscious stuff. So I'm going to use a little bit of the flow science thing. But that in and of itself has its own paradoxes because your instinct to flow should go a particular way, but this actually asks you to purposely go anywhere else but where your instinct is telling you to.
Yeah. I like it. And just in the topic, like of thinking about my brain, like to do both the narrow thing and the broad thing. That's a hell of a wicked question.
Yeah, so this is really interesting.
All right.
They all come.
All right, gang. It's always interesting, right? Because you've been in the call. Is there only the two of us, the three of us in this call? But I assure you, there are other folks. So.
Were you quickly dialing people up? Quick, join.
yeah. Hurry. Get into the call. Let's see.
Called in some favors there, anyhow.
Yeah, precisely. I'm lucky enough to know a few people. Let's see. So I'm going to open up rooms one more time, but this time we're going to go with our classic 5 minutes, not 105 minutes Zoom, 5 minutes with a 60-second kicker. Simone, would you jump into room 1? And Sri Kumar, could you ignore the prompt and hang out with me so that we've got even pairs?
Okay.
And with that, engage. And I should probably repeat my invitation. A paradoxical reality I must face up to is. And let's see.
I can't see the room invite.
Uh-oh. Yeah, that's because you were not in it. There you go.
Cool.
All right. Sri Kumar, is that, am I pretty close or am I butchering your name?
It's you are absolutely on very close, or I would say like it's exactly Sri Kumar. Yeah.
Ah, cool. So a paradoxical reality I must face up to is what came alive for you thinking about this?
It's very complex, right? Paradoxical reality. Maybe time looping.
What's that?
Maybe time looping.
Oh. Yeah, so for me, one of the paradoxes that I'm trying to face up to actually is like autonomy and agency, like the ability to like get shit done and do things as an individual. But then like connection at the same time, right? So there is a space where it feels like, oh no, autonomy and agency really wants to go one way, and connection really encourages me to do a whole different suite of things. But how do I actually hold that space of this polarity together so that I am acting in as much connection with the context and those around me, as well as with the most like agentic responsibility to do what seems obvious to me to do at the same time. So autonomy and connection is a paradoxical reality that I must face up to.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not able to, I mean, I think that is a reality. I would say. It's more of day to day, you know. Yeah, something that, I'm facing, like, which I mentioned, even this kind of time looping kind of things, like, you started doing some kind of training in your day to day, and it's kind of looping every time, and then you wanted to make it as something different every time, but you basically cannot make it different. But eventually you need to improve. You need to improve as yourself, but it's basically every time you go through the same loop.
Yeah. I think I get what you're talking about. Like there's some like relationship with like novelty, but also consistency that is in this thing. Like every time I think I have something figured out, I end up going back to learn like the first lesson that I ever learned, right?
Yeah.
No doubt.
And the thing is, because you think that you are doing something different, but because a lot of other people are involved, they bring you back into something.
No doubt. I noticed that for me, what's really relevant in that is like what I consider resistance, like my desire to want to like just to the world. And so no matter how much I go, no matter how old I get, I keep going back to that one and be like, oh God, oh, there it is again. Like, there I am gritting my teeth to the world.
Yeah. A lot of times, like, you get a feedback basically after every meeting, and you're trying to improve. And then there is another, after a couple of times, then another feedback telling you to go back to the, which you get rid of.
Right.
Yeah. Then it's like you're thinking that you are improving, but it's like you are looping around.
Right. Sort of spiraling this drain.
Exactly.
Right. Like a record stuck. Same song.
Yeah. And so I think maybe everyone would face something, especially those people are trying to coach. I'm working as an agile coach, so you are into coaching or something that and one of the thing that you are selling is change, right? And then you are actually end up in a loop.
Yeah, exactly. The never-ending change.
Yeah.
All right, gang. So yet one more time. Let me do one of these. Let me do one of those. Trade you with you and you with you.
And you, and you, and you, and you.
Yep.
Let's go party.
Let's see. And you with you. And that should do the trick. Mark, if you, I mean, long story short, if you end up in a call with somebody you were already in the call in, then move yourself. You should all be able to see.
Oh no, not you again. Bye.
Yeah. You should all have the ability to move through the breakout rooms. Mark, if you want to ignore the prompt this time and hang out with me, then one more time, what paradoxical reality I must face up to is I'll spam that yet again. So, Mark, what's a paradoxical reality you must face up to?
The paradoxical reality is about liberating structures. That people ask me to guide them, to teach them, and I absolutely have zero, well, a bit of a clue. So I want to experiment. I want to learn, and of course I go to meetups. Now we have an own community in the place where I work, and we want to learn, want to share. So that's a kind of paradox where we're talking about the chicken and the egg. And yeah,
to learn. Yeah, that's a good question. Oh my God, Mark, you could not imagine how many thoughts I have had about this exact question. So let's not even get there. That sounds awesome though, to have a receptive context that's eager to learn with you. And that makes life really interesting. Let's see.
And I really like that challenge for me. So to start somewhere and dig in and come on guys, together, wise crowds, we know the answer. We can do this.
Totally.
So interesting. Yeah.
There's usually more for what I find is in most contexts, most people have way more familiarity with liberating structures than they think.
Yes.
You may not know the nomenclature, like you may not know what that structure is called, but like the amount of people that have experienced 1, 2, 4 all is legion, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
True story. The first organizational change I ever was engaged in was literally a half day on-site 1, 2, 4 all. Like that was the whole like kickoff of the transformation program. Like we just grabbed all the people, put them through 1, 2, 4 all, be like, hey, what would you like to do different? And like half a day later, they were like, this was great. Doesn't have to be complicated.
And your paradoxical reality?
My paradoxical reality has to do with agency and connection. So, I think in the work that many of us do in sort of agile space, right, there is a high degree of agency sort of required, a lot of autonomy, right, to like use your discretion, go do stuff, resolve the impediments, and at the same time, like we are embedded in a context that is that's quite sensitive to the movements that anybody makes, right? That is very interdependent and connected. And so if I think about of any garden variety impediment, there is a context that made that impediment seem like naturally occurring, right? It just popped up, whether it's like an invasive species or whether it's like a native species, right? It just, the environment was perfect for it to sprout up in that place. And so like to have like a really like a deep sense of connection with that context that allows that allows an integration with the required agency, right?
Mhm.
You know, if I think about, let's just take the gardening metaphor, right? You know, what do I want to do? Do I want to spray the weed with toxins and that so that I can grow
Yeah.
food next to it, right? Or, you know,
Yeah.
or do I pull the weed out? You know, it may be a very effective solution, but not very sustainable, scalable, as it were. You know, or can I go the full permaculture route and really understand the context so well that I can introduce something that changes the whole pattern and paradigm of relationships that created the niche for that pest to happen in the first place.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, agency and or autonomy and verbinding, right? Autonomy and relationship.
Nice one. Yeah, there's always a connection somewhere. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, nothing in this world exists on an island, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, there's some guy on an island. There's some guy on an island right now who's very upset. He's going to watch this on YouTube and go, "Excuse me, sir."
Yeah, I am here.
Yeah. Right? How dare you? Yeah. But, no.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, so I noticed that, for example, I'm really, really, really great at that agency part. And then the whole connections thing, it's like I feel like I'm stumbling in the dark, like my 2-year-old daughter, you know, trying to cut something with the scissors. Just like, oh, really got a lot to learn here.
I need another 5 minutes in that breakout room.
Yeah, exactly. The tyranny of automation, right?
It made us crunch it down into 2 or 3 words.
Yeah, I mean, simplicity.
I have to admit that I always find it funny when you give us 5 minutes breaks, and one of your regular workshops is slow thinking dojo.
yeah, I know, right?
That could be the paradox of the day.
Yeah, for sure.
I see what you did there. That's pretty cool.
Touche. Well, thanks everybody for joining this March 28th edition of this Wise Crowds design call. Just like we do each and every time, we're going to try and field a couple people's help requests and help them design a string of liberating structures they can use for their meeting, workshop, or whatnot. So I will first and foremost leave the link to the doc that we're going to be working from today, so that should you so desire to reference it for your own personal needs or to work along and take notes within the doc, you've got that available for you. The first thing I want to draw your attention to, I believe, is the second page, which is this that has this graphic for the liberating structures development phases. And just give everybody a couple minutes to do their own self-assessment. So where are you in your own personal learning journey for liberating structures? Are you in the despairing cynic route? You know, are you familiar with very few structures, plus or minus 0? If so, I would invite you to use that despairing cynicism for our advantage and invite you into a membership role that is to help us challenge the assumptions and orthodoxies that we might not recognize as perhaps more seasoned practitioners. It's really hard to do, but if you can call out where you see bullshit, that would be really helpful for us. For those of us in the cautious optimist category, if you're familiar with plus or minus 5 structures, it would be really extraordinarily helpful if you ask for clarification when you hear jargon or terms or stuff that you're not familiar with. Call us out and make us explain those things so that we can make sure everybody sort of gets together and is on the same ride in terms of learning journey is concerned. Rapturous super users familiar with plus or minus 15 structures, I would really encourage and invite you in this membership role to help answer the questions that you may not be certain you have the perfect explanation for. So if you maybe have a vague idea and you're not sure, then please step into the awkwardness and try and explain that thing you've never explained before, so that we can hear some fresh voices and we can all get some practice. And for the minimalist maestros in the house, our job is to make space for other people and then build on the input of one another. So that is mostly my invitation to shut up from time to time and let everybody else get words in edgewise. But so these are our development phases, and I'm sure each one of you recognizes sort of where you're at on that growth trajectory. On the next page, I want to invite you into a bit of an experiment that I'm running with NFTs and blockchain-y stuff to sign the guest book with your name, Liberating Structures development phase, and email address. And I will send you a non-fungible token as a badge of participation. For helping us out and learning together with us in this Wise Crowds design call context. So with that being said, I believe there were a couple help requests, a couple design briefs that were left on the meetup page for the Change Hackers meetup group. Was that you, Stephanie, and you, Christian?
I know I did, yes.
Awesome. So we've got two briefs. So some of the criteria we might use to determine order of operations, we came up last week, was where on the growth, on the development phases are you guys at? So we can prioritize the people with less familiarity over the people with a little bit more familiarity.
So I'm rather new to liberating structures. I'm a apprentice in the smallest degree, I would call it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would call myself a cautious optimist, meaning there's a couple structures I probably use on a regular basis, but would like to expand the repertoire.
Okay.
I would say Padawan, if you've got that category. So love to be a follower, but not quite Jedi in any way, shape or form. Maybe more like, I don't know, maybe I'm a Jawa, something like that. Cautious optimist.
Cautious optimist. All right, and then the another criteria that we can use to help sort help requests could be the lead time. For example, if you have a meeting that we can plan or help you out within a narrow window of time that you've got to deliver, say, for example, this week versus one in a month from now, we might be able to prioritize anybody who has a more urgent help request. So Christian, Stephanie, John, it sounds like you have a help request as well, perhaps. What are the time frames of these sessions?
I have one that could be on Thursday, but it could also be pushed, so it could be next month if it was.
Yeah, I'm going on leave tomorrow. I'm going to the mountains, so for a couple of weeks. So yeah, mine's not pressing.
Oh, all right, thank you.
And I am
Stephanie?
next month.
Next month.
Mine's
all right.
next Wednesday.
All right. So we've got a range of options, but it sounds like Christian's, we've got an opportunity to help you out. And so let's start there and see who's next. So Christian, can you give us I guess before I get into this part, we should talk about the Wise Crowd structure. Does anybody perhaps in the Rapturous super user category want to walk us through your understanding of the Wise Crowd structure?
Seems like there is no super user.
All right.
Well, it's not so much a super user. I think it's like I'd rather Jay do it because he's so cool at it.
No, I mean, but it gets so boring hearing me. But Wise Crowds, there's a visual on one of these pages. I don't have page numbers on this document, which is weird because I know they're on there. At any rate, on one of these pages, you'll see a visual for Wise Crowds. Wise Crowds is very similar to Troika Consulting, but with a larger group. So that means somebody's going to take on the role of the client. In this first round, it'll be Christian, and he's going to explain to us his design brief in a couple minutes. And a design brief consisting of the place that the session is happening, the purpose or intended outcome from the session, the participants who are required in order to achieve that purpose, and any thoughts about the process and particulars, how much time, remote or co-located call, for example. After that, the rest of us are going to act as consultants. We're going to ask any clarifying questions we might have. This is a really hard part for many of us as consultants, because what we're trying to do is gather information. We're not trying to ask hard coaching questions so much, and we're just trying to give us what we need in order to generate advice. So we want to avoid advice in this round, and then Christian will turn off his webcam and microphone, and then the rest of us will get into our consultant role, and then we'll basically spitball about what structures come to mind, what do we recognize about situations like this in our past, and we'll generate advice for him. And after about 10 minutes, Christian will come back into the call, and then he will explain what he takes away, or what was helpful, less than helpful, what he realized in response to our consultancy. And then we'll move on to the next call, or to the next one. So we should have time to get through at least 2, perhaps 3, if we use super tight time boxes, and definitely move away from that slow thinking, but we'll see. Sort of play it fast, a little loose. So that's the pattern for Wise Crowds. And we're going to be also making use of an additional structure, the design storyboard, that you can find on the next pages, and with several examples going down on the document as well. So does anybody have any questions about the pattern of Wise Crowds? Awesome. Then Christian, tell us about your design brief.
I live in a community. We are 26 houses who have a two together, and we have a tough question, because how much community we accept each other. We live together. We can't fire people when they live there, but we have a discussion about how much can we ask for each other. How much can we ask people to eat together, work together, if some things has to be happening and so on. And there are, I think it is okay to describe as 2 poles, as some people want to be like they are, and that's meaning not participating, and some think it's important to participate. And so there are 2 distinct groups, and they are not talking very well to each other. And it's very often when we touch the subject, it has been filled with emotions too much. It's gone to a place where people are accusing people, and we haven't come to realize even what people mean, because it gets too fast. Another thing. So my purpose would be more understanding the different positions, because we have never been there where we understand why people think as they are, and want to do it. So I would like to know more. Why do they think as they do, and how, as anything in it? And the participants would be maximum 26 people, one from each house, who has to talk about. And the length would be maybe 1 to 2 hours, and maybe more if we could do it again. Because so I think it's a loaded question. I would like to have answers, and I would like to have people being able to at least listen to differences before they need more information, I think, before they attack each other. No, but before we go to next phase, maybe deciding things. Yeah. So it's much more exploration. Which positions have you had? Which arguments have you? I would like to explore that and then see where we can go from there. Yeah.
All right. So just a quick recap, what I get from the design brief and the basic essentials. So it sounds like the place, the context is happening within this community of households. And you mentioned that there's sort of two distinct subgroups, people that want a lot of community, it sounds like, and people who want more autonomy. Autonomy and connection. This was my paradox, guys. So of course, once you start seeing paradoxes, you'll see them everywhere. So there is a conflict about that, and the purpose and the intended outcome is how much community can we ask of each other, and you would also like to, you think as a requirement to achieve that outcome, to have more understanding of different positions and that people listen to each other. So your maximum participation is 26th, and you figure that you've got 1 or 2 hours to stick this design brief. So on the basis of that design brief, what are the clarifying questions that come up for us?
You take for granted, Christian, that the people who are not participating in most activities will participate in this one?
I think at least there will be some will come to that if it's important enough and if it has value for them. I think some will come. But I think they might come to defend themselves.
Can I ask a question? Okay. So I heard that the community, I mean, I would like to know that what are the different kind of people part of this community? Are there same ethnicity? Are they coming from different or different languages, different beliefs, or different brought up? So what are these criteria that you have inside the community?
I think it's very homogeneous in that way, as there are no religious or color or something like that to have some problem. It's mostly, I think, that when the community started, everybody had children and they were families. So then everybody was more, and then somebody has left and somebody's getting older. So now there are small children and retired people who want freedom to live the retired life, travel as they want. So it's more like if different phases in their lives has moved, make the difference bigger in it. But the other things I think is not the problem if it's like diversity in that way, but it's age and life position, I think it would be a difference. And freedom, how much freedom people want.
I don't know if it's a valid question, but what's the worst thing that could happen for you?
I think if people get so angry that they wouldn't discuss with each other, because we have to walk past each other, and I would like to think, okay, don't agree with you, but hi, do have a good day, and then maybe somebody is only that. I would more like them. I could stop and say, did you have a good day today, and blah, blah, blah. But at least and accept and as a nice nod I would like in any place. And the worst thing could be if they were angry afterwards with mouth if I saw them, but because we have to live together, we have to walk past each other day by day, and it should be okay to not agree on everything. Yeah.
What would motivate someone to want to come to this meeting? Like, why would someone show up instead of staying home?
I think if there would be rules for how much participation there should be, if we had to agree on other terms of, one time they came was when we discussed, should everybody pay a small sum for the eating we had together, if they came or not. That was the most, where most people came, because that was and that was, I don't think was a small amount, maybe, I don't know, £10 a month they should pay to the community eating was cheaper for them. They came there because that was too much. So I think rules and things that would press them, that would make them come. It's not nice, but I think that would.
One thing that comes to me as you were discussing is an exercise that Jeremy had organized for us at Play 14. I wanted to know, are you looking at a good outcome, or are you looking at an outcome, or are you looking at a process? What is it that you want an agreement on?
I would like process first, because I don't think we know it much to take a good choice. As there are some people I don't know anything about why they do the things they do, and maybe if we could accommodate it, could go other places. But I think somebody I don't even know why they do what they think, and then I think if I don't know, I think we start making stories, and then some of them are not nice. I would rather know than making stories.
What are the common things? I mean, how much common things that you in a community that you guys are share, and what is the likelihood that the people are coming into this common things?
As I think where we stand out, we could be 26 houses living on a street, and there are all those nice things that children play in. But what stands out is that we eat 3 times a week together, and some make the food, but when we eat together, and we have 4 times a year, we have a Saturday where we do things, what has need to be done in the community, lawns and houses and things outside, something like that. So that is the special thing, and those things I think is the most visible thing that somebody doesn't do. And then the parties, we have summer party and winter party and children parties and things that happen around the year. Those things are the special things I think we have, and some don't participate in any of those, and some participate in most of it.
So Christian, just a question. So in the community, is there a physically written community charter, or is this just something verbally that was created when the houses came together?
The interesting thing is that when they started, I think they agreed, and then the time has moved them. There has never been, you need to come 3 out of 4 times, you need to eat so much. It has been this, I think it's Danes are always ret flowing. We'll find out of it, and we talk about it, and then things have moved. And suddenly we experience the divide is being bigger and more visible. I have been the one who had to organize those working Saturdays. And when I started, we were 40 adults, and there were 30 people and out of 40. And now we're 23 out of 40 people coming to these Saturdays. And this movement, I think I'm missing 17 people to make good things for the community. It's my glasses, and that's too much. We are breaking in that, I think.
So, just a point of clarification is this sounds like an intentional community, right? So it's not just by happy accident that we moved to the same neighborhood.
Oh.
We came to this space. Okay. All right.
So you've lost your hygge. There's no hygge.
Say it again.
You haven't got the hygge there. You know the
hygge. Oh yes, we have lots of hygge with the 23, and then there's 17. Yeah, we have lots of hygge.
Right.
Yes.
Well, is there any other important clarifying question, or we have good enough for now, safe enough to get to work? Last chance for romance. Then, Christian, I'll ask you to turn off your webcam and microphone, but obviously pay close attention as we do our consultancy thing. And
I actually had one point. I was just coming off mute. But
great.
Just Christian, does a group as in unity agree that there's a problem that needs to be solved at this point, or are they not aware that there's a problem that needs to be solved?
I think somebody don't think it's a problem. I think somebody thinks it's a right to do what they want, and some think it's a problem because they think they are missing in the not was supporting or not contributing to what they should. So I think somebody sees a problem and somebody sees others who are annoying or asking for something they are not. Yes. So yeah, but it's a good question. Yeah, it's not a problem for everybody. Yeah.
I think. Yeah. Shall I go? Yeah, I think the Jeremy's and John question triggered me to understand that when you create the community, what is the basic value that created this community, and is that value still exist?
It is true. Yeah. Yeah. It's a very, very good. And sometimes I have the ideas maybe it exists some places and not others. Yeah.
Well then, Christian, I'll ask you to mute yourself, like I said, and turn off your webcam, and we will get to work and come up with some advices. So gang, that's the design brief. We are the consultant team. My question for us as consultants is I mean, I guess, where do we recognize this type of challenge, and what structures come to mind to help us address it? And then how might we string them together?
My first thought is the P2P structure, because that purpose to practice, and purpose to practice, because when you, it almost sounds like maybe not quite crisis mode yet, but because it involves that complexity of the feeling and the human focus of, hang on, you're challenging my freedom versus, community, like why should I contribute? If I'm not getting out of it, why should I contribute into it? So there's this sense of how much energy I'm expending and where am I expending that energy, in a way. So I think with a lost sense of purpose is what it sounds like, a lost sense of that community and why it exists. So which is why I'm thinking purpose to practice, because it's like, all the stakeholders can be involved in this as well. They can get their clarification as to why did they move into the community, and why are they still there. And I think that gaining that clarity for themselves and hearing people's stories around it would probably be a really good start, especially if we then combine that with the heard, seen and respected,
I exactly thought the same.
Me too.
You say. Yeah.
It sounds like defining, which is why the purpose to practice fits so well, but really defining, like, what does community mean? I'm also wondering if it's a charged situation, perhaps part of the time is spent on that, but purpose to practice can take a while. I'm just wondering, depending on the emotions and who's showing up, if a heard, seen, respected might be an option. If there's conflict right out of the gate, like we can't even talk about what community means until we resolve some conflict, that might be an option as well.
And I was also thinking about the conversation cafe. But I've never done that, but the description for it: engage everyone in making sense of profound challenges. That makes me think that one is also suitable. So conversation cafe.
Yeah, I think that's a really good starting point. If the group itself isn't actually aware that there's a problem, I think coming together in a World Cafe or Conversation Cafe can be a really useful point to get smaller groups and get away from the embarrassment of being in a large group and holding your hand up, and also taking away some of the stronger voices and maybe mixing them into smaller groups as well to get more democracy into the group as well. can be really powerful. So I would definitely do that. But I think the storytelling is a fantastic part of focusing on where we've had previous successes as a group, and searching for those things that we can find recipe for success, and become aware of some of the things we can do as a group. I think that can be really powerful as well.
I think posing the question up front, you know, and it's a little bit like Wicked Question in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's involved?
That's one of my favorites to fall into.
I know. I think there's a bunch of us in here that particularly like being wicked, but there's a what are you looking at? I think with the Conversation Cafe, one of the, especially considering this is Denmark, when I mentioned hygge, it's because I've had some of my coaches and mentors have been Danish as well, but this sense of community, not just talk about the sense of community, but talk about where did our hygge go? Because this is, where is our comfort? Where is our pleasure? Where is our warmth? Where is the simpleness in life that we sought, our cozy atmosphere? And I think if actually pose the question, where did it go? And have the Conversation Cafe around that, and then utilizing the stories, you know, with the heard, seen, respected, and having those stories and then sharing the stories. And that might bring back that past history. Where did our community go?
John, what you were saying, sorry, Mark, do you want to go first?
No, go first.
John, what you were saying, I connect with more on the World Cafe than the Conversation Cafe. The reason for that is the disproportion of people who participate versus the number of people who don't participate, and the likelihood that the non-participants, usual non-participants, would not come in bulk this time. So it would end up being people talking each other against one thing, possibly. And the good thing about World Cafe is that it emphasizes listening over talking. I was curious about the benefit of maybe appreciative interviews of people of different, who have had different experiences. That's it.
May I go? So yeah, the World Cup, it's maybe a cultural thing as well. I mean, in the UK, we're incredibly reserved and unable to speak in a large crowd. And the sort of World Cafe, very much that. I forgot that we're dealing with Danes, right? I've worked in Aarhus, maybe a more open community. So I would temper going with World Cafe. I think, but certainly, trying to understand what the problem is. Let's suppose Christian is posing the wrong question for a moment, and the 17 people have got a different question, and it might be relevant to try and find what question they would ask as well. I think that would be something really interesting, and that's why I think maybe I do really like the idea, Smojo, of starting with a story and try to find where there's commonality maybe and where there's discrepancies, and exploring that. So I would temper what I said and taking it back.
I would second that. Actually, I was wondering whether, because very often when we have these kinds of things, there is at least a common goal. Different appreciations of the situation, but at least a common goal. And I was wondering whether this should actually be a first date. It seemed, maybe you guys are so much better than I am, but to achieve all this in one meeting seems completely unrealistic to me.
I was thinking the same thing. It may need to be a series where you start with one thing, like it's defining what does community mean to us. If there's some particular problem that a lot of people are irritated about, improv prototyping might be useful. If people are willing to have a little bit of fun while solving it. Again, I don't know if this is the right group to try something like that, but that was something that came to my mind too, is could they come away from that meeting with value of, hey, we've solved one of these problems that assumes that the group could define a problem or a problem that's big enough and affecting most of them, right? But that came to my mind too.
But instead of improv, I almost was thinking about the children then, because they could put on a show or something of what represents the community to them or something like that. But given the style of community, could it be around the food? Could we do a workshop that was around that coming together over the cooking or the, excuse me, you know, something around that? So it's a physical experiential reminder of what they did as a community at the same time as having, you know, building in those other structured conversations. So you get the physical, mental, emotional thing happening in one sense.
Could this then take a completely indirect route, and instead of talking about the topic as the topic, being an invitation to reconnecting, maybe in more in unconference for some reason, the marketplace thingy, I forgot the name, but where people bring something that would be based more on attractors than, okay, we have a big topic to address. Yeah, open space, God. I mean, my practice is based on that. Thank you.
And maybe make some soft food or something, so if it ends up in a food fight, it's actually more fun than bad.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think, you know, without undermining the group, like some levity, I think, you know, creating something together, I really like that idea. I think that's a fantastic approach, and really can, you know, kind of draw out some of the pluses and some of the less strong relationships between them, and, you know, give that. I think that impromptu prototyping, I'd actually totally forgotten about that, but there's always so much levity involved in it, right? Yeah, it's a fantastic one. But open space, I think there's it can be really difficult as well to get participation in open space. I think that's part of that process of maybe that's the second date.
I said it in a very light form. It was more Spanish in, kind of bring something and focused on what you bring, rather than addressing an issue. Smudgers is the best way.
Totally resonates with me. I mean, I love it. I've used it in new organizations, but at the same time, it's quite a challenging one for people to take a session and understand it and stand up, right, and talk to their peers. But it's a great one to get to. I love that. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to drop, but it's been lovely meeting you and listening today. Take care.
Thanks for the consult, John.
Good luck, Christian.
In your time, should we wrap up?
It's just a couple more for sure. Definitely getting towards wrapping up. Another one that also comes to mind for me that I noticed was in our clarifying questions practically is generative relationships, right? To use the STAR tool to create an artifact of, you know, that gives us something like, let's do some form of evaluation of our community, so then we can have a conversation about, well, you know, how are we doing? Do we have the vibes that we're looking for? So that one seems like an interesting fit, to try and just sort of weave together what has seemed to have particular high energy. Hearing you guys talk, there was a lot of sort of +1ing around heard, seen, respected, right? So just these smaller conversations about, hey, tell a story about a time when you didn't feel heard, seen, and respected, when you didn't feel like, you know, your perspective was appreciated and heard. It would be a great way to really kick the doors off of this thing and just go, oh shit, yeah, we are all humans. God damn, we forgot all of that. And, you know, being heard, seen, and respected is actually extraordinarily important. So I would love that as sort of an opening salvo. And then I think moving into this idea about appreciative interviews. I think Frederick and also John brought it up, that this opportunity to tell stories about when the vibe was really there in the way that we so desire it is a good sort of counterpoint of like, okay, first let's drop all the bullshit, and then like, where are we trying to go? Like, what is the feeling that we're trying to generate by being here and doing this thing with each other? And then moving into something that's a little bit more perhaps analytical, either generative relationships, or probably the simplest is the best, just the conversation cafe around, okay, so, where, like, what was that question? What's the word? Hygge? Like, so where did it go, right? So I feel like these three things in 2 hours would hygge. Yeah, these three structures in 2 hours would be a pretty spacious opportunity to really shift the feeling. And I would be, from my non-ethical perspective, I would be happy lying to people and saying, we're going to make the rules that are going to determine the rest of your life in this place, to get them to show up and then induce them into this intervention and go, hey, now let's talk. Speaking of which, Let's Talk, which is not a liberating structure, it's from the Deep Democracy Toolkit, is also a really, really interesting one. It scales up into an exercise called shooting arrows. I'll describe it briefly because it's hard to find resources online. You basically split people into two subgroups. The subgroup that wants a lot of engagement and a lot of community feeling, and the subgroup that wants to be left more or less the fuck alone. And you would you'd first create a set of ground rules, like, hey, this is what we're going to do. We've got to create some safe space, no throwing actual things, but you guys stand on the opposite sides of your room, and then you hurl all your accusations at the other side. No defending yourself allowed. You're allowed to switch sides whenever you want. Take note of anything any words that when they hit you go, ow, but get it all out. This is your opportunity to say everything that has been on your mind. This can be a challenging exercise that creates a lot of levity, actually, but will for sure, it takes some guts to really go for. It scares everybody, but every time I've done it, it's just like, it just builds so much intimacy. It's just like, okay, that's what I was trying to get out. So at any rate, that feels like a great consultation. Christian, why don't you come back in, tell us what you take away?
Come now. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. You are so clever. It's very nice. And even thinking about culture and those things too. I think I will try to find things where listening is the most important, this part of it, because I think that's there are many mouths and very few ears, I would think, in this group. I also had underlined, heard, seen, respected when we talked about it and it's about listening. So it's something about that with listening we are not good at. I have counted some of our meetings, and I think we could have 1.5 hours meeting with 3 questions, and the rest would be always just talking. So I think that with questions and listening would be very, very important. I'm too afraid to shoot arrows, I think. I think we are many Indians and know what's called chiefs, and nobody is allowed to be a chief. So even if I did that, I would like to do this with them. I would have a position I'm not allowed to without very much preparing of it. I haven't consultant stages, so it'd be very, as I have to start slow. But I think this searching for the good, finding the good stories, and I think that would be one part of it. Maybe just write on a yellow post-it notes and put it on the wall first or something like that, and then see what happens. So, but those small things going in the right direction, and then maybe conversation cafe or storytelling, something like that. I think is the way I have to go, because I think they will say yes to that, I think. So it's also what I can be allowed to do with the group. I have no power to anything, and maybe that's good too, because I don't want to push in that way. I want to entice. Is that the word for it? Come my way, in a way. So thank you for the many ideas. I have to also, as an apprentice, I have to look some of them up before I know exactly what you're talking about. But I will. But I think heard, seen, respected. I know that, and I think that would be a storytelling. Something like that would be where I go after this.
Something else that comes to mind that could be another powerful exercise is drawing together on a literal shared mural, right? To create an artifact of the intention and desire that is the community, right? Yeah. To give them something that they can literally go back to and go, oh yeah, that was the feeling we're shooting for. So.
Yeah, and I think with those I would start just with words, because many of them would not draw, I think. But I think with that good stories, singing that would put that on the wall. I've tried with Jamboard, but as I put it out in the community but nobody happened. So I think as a try of being or collecting, and that didn't work. But some of that kind.
With a story wall, I mean, some things you could do. You could say. You could start the sentence off for people if they're feeling a little bit nervous about actually starting to tell a story, and just very simply say, I remember when,
Yeah. ...
and let them fill in the rest of the sentence, just to help them start to tell a story.
Yeah. And I think that with small groups will also be essential, because we are not very good 20 people together. Then that's not good. I think we work better with 4 or 5 people than with the 20. We can't do that.
Not
awesome.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, what was that, Frederick?
What you said earlier reminded me a technique that is used in M.G. Taylor, where the archetype of this would be in a military base where they had problems. They actually ended up burying the hatchet. So literally they put a hatchet in a coffin, and there were as many nails as there were people were participating, and they all nailed the coffin and buried it. Obviously that's extreme, but it's an example of embodiment.
As an ex-soldier, I can actually relate to that story really well.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that extreme at all. There's different ways that people can do it, and I think because the burying the hatchet is where people feel threatened and there is actually danger, and where things are so out of hand that it only takes a small spark for things to go very bad. So I think, Frederick, it's a really, yes, it might sound extreme, but I think that having I like plan A, B, C, and D. So I like to have all those things in place. No, I don't think it's extreme at all. And that's why a visual experience is, and it could be something, it could be, you could do the opposite. It could be planting a new garden in the community, or a tree, or a vegetable garden. You know, we're coming into, spring, summer now. So maybe you guys can plan something like that to regrow the community. I don't know.
And that's my idea. That got sparked. I think I want to make a flag, a weapon shield, something as a that we could pull up and then having standing somewhere that reminds of the good things in it. So yeah, some drawing, something, and maybe a flag. I thought about. Yeah. Thank you.
I would definitely say looking into drawing together is worth your while if that type of artifact is of interest.
Yeah.
But let's turn the page. Thanks so much, Christian, for your delightful design brief. So that leaves Stephanie or Smojo. Who's got the energy?
Actually, I think Stephanie, ours is very similar in some ways. So I'm happy for Stephanie to talk about hers, because I think both of ours will there'll be crossovers there. So
sure, yeah. Okay, so my design brief is I've been working with a group of managers who across 3 groups who have identified some issues within their work groups. And they originally asked me to do some things like process mapping and things of that nature. And I've said, hey, I think there's more of a problem here around a sense of team and feeling like these 3 distinct work groups are part of the same team working for the same reasons. So I've asked for 1 hour of their team's time to put together a 1-hour workshop where we'd focus on building new habits to help our sense of team. Part of the challenges are that this would need to be online, so everyone's distributed remotely across the US. Another challenge is these folks are mostly hourly folks, so they're going to need to be paid overtime and or have to work an extra hour to participate. So that won't be a choice, it'll be they have to come, right? But some people may come in resenting that I'm making them work an extra hour, if you will. But I want them to leave with a greater sense of team and some small steps they can take over the next 2 weeks to improve their work situation, with the idea that I'd be able to come back in and follow up with an additional workshop or something of that nature. So I will pause there and see what questions you might have. Yeah, Frederick.
I have one. It seems that when I heard you, I heard a connection between the fact that the people are paid by the hour and the fact that the workshop should be 1 hour and that it's going to be an extra hour for them. I'm curious about why this is not considered as an investment and taken from the basic thing.
Sure. So these folks are in a job, type of job where every minute of their day is filled with activity. So they have no room in their current schedules to be able to build this in. So I've already asked the managers about that as an option. Even if it was running the same workshop multiple times with small groups of people, I'm not sure how many people that we're talking about in totality, but the concern was there's no one to fill in for them to do their job during the work day, if you will. So if they don't do it, it doesn't get done, and that can't happen. So that's why it needs to be kind of outside their work hours.
So they never have off time, they never have training, their machines.
I'm sure they have a lunch break, right? But no training, no, not really.
Okay. Wow.
There's no, I'd say, margin in their day for them to choose what to do.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I'm curious, Stephanie, I guess this, my the HR hat kicks in a little bit here and going, then how are they going to innovate and create? Because if it's just a complete reaction to doing the tasks that are just in front of them, there's no chance for them to improve. Even if you're going to process map, how can they improve the process flow if they're not given time to respond as a team, if you know what I mean? So
right.
I guess it's that, here's the paradox. They're supposed to get training to get better at what they do and be able to improve the capability of the organization.
Right. So this would be more focused on how they interact with each other to get their jobs done. So I don't feel like we can start with efficiencies and process mapping if right out of the gate, they're not quite sure who they should talk to about certain things, or they don't know that person in that other work group. There's no connection there. There's no sense of shared purpose. So I'm feeling like if we start with a sense of team, a shared purpose, that would then help on the day-to-day interactions as they're reacting to things that come in.
Are they a team or are they a pool of resources working on the same thing with different clients?
Yeah, I would call them a work group.
So what do you mean when you say you would like them to get a sense of being a team?
that it's not just about the thing that's in front of me and what I have to get done, but it's about the people around me and how we're all doing things together as part of a company, as part of a group, a team focused on the specific job responsibilities they have to do.
Would it be accurate to speak about sense of scale rather than sense of team?
Perhaps.
Okay.
What's in it for them? So if I heard you, what should I expect? What do you promise me? I can get out of it. I'm losing an hour. I'm sitting here. I could be home.
I would say better day-to-day interactions with my peers if I'm someone in the workshop.
Is that more fun? Or what is better?
Better than where they are at today. It would vary by each person because I don't know where they are at today.
Yeah. Because I have no real picture of, if I go into your workshop now, why should I put my ears out and spend energy? So I don't, yeah.
Sorry, I almost had that word. It nearly popped out into the mouth. It nearly went there. That sense of what's in it for me, as you were talking about that, I'm thinking, is this going to make their life at work easier?
I would hope so.
Because if they are the ones that are going to come up with improving that workflow through collaboration and
yes,
that sort of thing, then it just, that in itself, would that then achieve the business capability or capacity?
Yes, Simone, I think you said that really well, very simply. If their life at work is easier, we should then realize some of the efficiencies and the things that are broken that the managers have identified.
Sounds like we need to do some of that pipe busting, like the things that are clogging up the pipe as the flow.
Right. And I also have a hypothesis that what the managers are telling me may be different than what these folks are going to tell me, right? Because they're coming from two very different places. Might be the same, but I have a feeling I might hear some different things.
Do you have practical?
Oh, sorry. You speak, Frederick.
Do you have practical examples? Because I have a hard time figuring what we're trying to solve for.
So a problem pops up. We don't know who to go to solve it. We don't know if this is a problem we need to go solve. Like that was one example that I was given. Some people don't necessarily know how to do their job the same way as other people. So we lose that efficiency, if you will, because they're working on very similar things on a day in and day out basis. So it should be a very similar approach on how they get the work done.
Do they have the knowledge though? Because I've been in situations like that where we had like 400 people in call centers.
Yes.
But we didn't need all these people. We needed 5 or 6 who were structuring the thing. So especially not the ones who are by the hour. So
I think it's gotten better. So a significant number of them were hired about 6 months ago. So you have people who've been doing the job for a long time, and then you've got all these new people coming in. And then on top of that, the new people work remotely and the other people work together in a physical location, which is also causing some friction. So I would say at this point, the managers have said, yep, they're more up to speed on how to do their job than they would have been like 6 months ago. But there's still inconsistencies between if I'm only been here 6 months, how I do a task is different than how the person next to me who's been here 10 years does a task.
So is this a matter of training or is this a matter of agreeing between different options?
They haven't asked me to do anything with training. We might uncover that though. That might be something that we uncover in the workshop of in order to make my life at work better, we need to have training on XYZ topic, perhaps. That's an example of something that might be uncovered where the managers have said, we're good on the training, they know what they're supposed to do, and that I might hear something different from the people themselves.
Are those people here, are they some that think they have power over their own job? So if they think, if I say something in this workshop, it will change. I can say things and they will be changed, or I'd rather have another feeling of management.
I want them to have a sense that there's things they can do, that they don't need to wait for someone else to solve it for them, right? That there's small things that they can do to improve their life at work.
Okay.
And I saw Jeremy
They can walk out at the end. They can walk out at the end of the 60 minutes and feel like they can physically turn around the next shift and be able to say, you know what, there's a blockage. How do we blow that one away?
Yes. Yep. And if I talk to Susie and this other group, we can figure it out together.
Okay.
All right. That feels like a copious amount of information. So thank you very much, Stephanie, for your great design brief. I would say turn off your webcam and mic, and then we will get to work with our consulting. So gang, recognition, who's got recognition about something like this in the past? What structures come up to us, and how might we string them together?
I feel like we just need to get an infrastructure map of the pipe system and lay the claymore mines where they need to be. Just blow it out of the water. Sorry, levity.
I like it. I like it. Definitely.
Triz. I think Triz, because we're talking about a little bit of innovation, right? Getting a bit of the creativity around the purpose and stuff. So I'm just thinking a list of all the things that it's going to be really bad, like trying to get clarity around what is crap and what can we do about it. Give them something to work towards.
Yeah, or maybe use the appreciative interviews to look at the right side. Maybe that can help. Maybe together with wicked questions. But wicked questions maybe is not the right one.
I could go for it. I look on the bright side into wicked questions, into what's the paradox we need to face. That could be a fun time. What pops for me initially is this is a pretty, this seems like the context that discovery action dialogue was born for, right? Practice deep respect for the people that are there and the local solutions to just go, hey, who are the people that don't have X problem, and what do they do to solve it, and how could we be a little bit more, what might be able to learn from them? Feels like sage wisdom here. Anybody else? What was that up, Christian?
I think at least I think it sounds like one important thing is that they talk together, and many like tying people together so they have been oiled for talking. Because if they sit together and then they don't do it, it might be that most important if they can discover the others as talking partners. I don't know, it's maybe even doesn't matter so much the content as they're doing it.
How might you see... Sorry, Frederick, go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, how might you see the eco cycle planning fit into that? Because that cycle of destroying something, renewing something, all that kind of stuff. I don't know whether, I don't know that one very well, but it just seems like it might have that potential.
One thing we have to keep in mind is the 1 hour constraint. And I would actually not take it as a constraint, but I would design for that and then share what's missing with that. For instance, because people may be at very different levels, they may actually take time to level. One of the things that I would have been interested if we had a bit more time was to take Jeremy's point, and just after that, if we see that some people know and some people don't know, have something like what I need from you, from the newcomers, but it would be just an option. It would be like in your plan A, B, C, D, it would be like one of the late CODs. But we might not reach there. So stepping back, what is it that management really expects from this one, so that we have a chance to possibly have a second one, because we can't really miss, and 1 hour is quick gone.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing up what I need from you, because that what's funny is that came up in response also for me for Christians. I think that would be another great way to ritualize that conflict. Go, hey, you know, this is what I need from these different subgroups.
An option of this that I've done before, not knowing that it was a liberating structure, was what is it that I'm receiving and that I interpret I'm getting, and what is it that I give? And that helps people figure a web pretty quickly. And we see a lot of misunderstandings. But in this case, I think what I need from you is more practical given the 1 hour.
So what about helping heuristics then?
Yeah, I was trying to say that, yes. It's only 50 minutes on the board, so it's also an interesting one.
Yeah, that could
I never
work.
used it. Well, I think I used it, but I never knew I was using this, so but it could work, yes.
Yeah, so helping heuristics is kind of the counterpoint to Troika, whereas Troika is a little bit messier, kind of like this. The helping heuristics is a bit more of a guided coaching conversation. I might opt for Troika consulting in this context, given the sort of design parameter of getting people to mix up in novel ways. There's a couple structures that seem could be particularly good for that. Impromptu networking, 15 minutes to just have a one-on-one with, you know, somebody that's in a different space than you are, or doing the job in a different way than you are, and to surface that diversity. Troika consulting also seems opportune. Like the greatest hits, 1, 2, 4 all seems like a really solid opportunity. Doesn't take a whole lot of time and allows to mix people up and get some information flowing. 15% solutions also seems like a really sage piece that might help invite into, like, think about baby solution, not grand architecture, but so there seems like a wealth of opportunities actually. I might keep it very simple though, and think about something either 1, 2, 4 all to start off. I really love the idea of Triz, but I think for me the meat and potatoes, the main course would be discovery action dialogue. I would seek to get the group to cohere around what's a sticky widget, and perhaps the first round of Triz, like how would we burn this place down, could be a great idea to surface these sticky widgets. Get into dialogue with each other about, hey, who's good at solving this type of problem, so that information can sort of flow around the group. And I'm so sad that doesn't leave time for something along the lines of improv prototyping. I think would be great fun. But that you would have to have the challenge already there, like in order to do improv prototyping.
Maybe improv prototyping would be like a stage 2, because once this is proven and then they go on to improving process mapping, etc., that maybe that's the taste or like the, yeah.
Frederik, your hand's up.
Yeah. How many people are there already in that group? Do you recall?
I actually don't know how many people are in the group. I'm going to ask that. And I am so sorry, you all. I love your feedback, but I have to go to a meeting here. I'm a little late, but I wanted to hear it all. Love the ideas. I definitely think there's some things in here that I can use, especially the impromptu networking classic, but just getting people talking. So, so sorry I have to go. I'll be back another time, but thank you.
Awesome. Come back and tell us what you did.
I will.
That would be rad.
Yes.
Thank you.
Most definitely.
Well, gang.
I don't know what you think, but that it needs to come out for me. If these are people by the hour, and if they are probably a scaled team, I mean a scaled group, I would be very, very cautious about accepting the challenge and bringing everyone, because we made a lot of assumptions. And for me, I would be called to go back to Agile and making a non-fatal, non-lethal experiment with a smaller group, like an end of shift or something like that. They're probably in several shifts. You don't need to bring everyone at the, you know. What are your thoughts?
Run it as a pilot then, yeah.
Take a smaller group, big enough that there is some representative, but definitely not everyone, because then it's your last date. I like to have second dates. That's usually when things happen. Oh, you're my wife. This is not what I meant.
Awesome. That's a great point. Thanks for bringing that in. Well, gang, this has been the March 28th edition of this Wise Crowds Liberating Structures design call. Thanks, guys, so much for your time, attention, and energy, and offering your requests. Christian, it would be great to have you back after you've done this workshop and let us know what you actually chose and how it went. That could be a great missing link for this space. So thanks, guys, so much for participating, and I hope to see you next time. Next week, there will not be a design call. We'll be doing the Think Slow Dojo in the same time slot. It's on the Change Hackers meetup group. It would be great to see you there. So the next design call will be the 11th of April, and we'll hope to see you then.
Thanks for hosting, Jeremy.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks for all the insights.
Bye.
My pleasure. Safe travels, all.
Thank you.